They got dove early on, they died, and then they were pretty much playing from behind the whole rest of the game.
So we'll see if the swap over to Revan opens anything else up in Champion Select here for game number 2. Looks like we're going to see if anything changes from Tempo Storm now they're on the blue side. CLG Academy are sticking to the Thresh ban. They don't want Sheep to wind up having that one. And still a Warwick ban coming out from Tempo Storm versus MarkZ.
You got to be happy if Sheep ends up onto the Zyra again. I think he had 7, 8 deaths, something that game.
A lot.
Not having a good time. Part of it is the comp. They use against a Rumble who can basically ult you at any point in a fight, and if your flash isn't up, you instantly drop to about 30% health. Combo that with an Olaf and a Galio. Not many ways to actually stop them from getting in on you. Your ultimate's a great zoning tool against traditional tanks and divers, but not against an Olaf who can run right through it, and a Galio who comes in over the top. So just a good kind of draft around that Zyra pick. So CLG Academy, this time around, still a lot of jungle bans, but the Elise is up, and there you see Tempo Storm grabbing it right away.
Yeah, they pretty much had the opportunity to ban away Galio or ban away Elise. They did not want to give up that Galio, so they give over the Elise instead. Now it could be CLG Academy that wound up taking the Caitlyn for themselves. The #1 priority pick from the bot lane marksman role could be going into Zag's hands this time around, and Zag, pretty solid. I mean, he was in a 1v2 for a lot of that lane phase and still wound up coming out as a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, that comp that they were playing is not super fun to play from behind against people who are diving you, but they were ahead, and so a lot of the fights just started with Zag untouched, far away, slowing people down with the Jhin ultimate. Didn't really have to worry about any dive. It was basically, if we don't kill them, then maybe I'm in trouble, or if we don't pay attention to Quas, who's running in my face. But for the most part, he was kind of on utility duty, like you said, with that Jhin pick into the Caitlyn this time around. Gonna have to be the aggressor in the lane, trying to bully out the side of Tempo Storm.
We'll see if they're able to get advantage on the bottom side. It looks like CLG Academy really like that Rumble. They're able to pick, they want to be picking it up blind here in the first rotation.
A little surprising to see that. There were still a couple top lane bans that they threw out, but it seems like they realized that we actually don't think that Quas has much to play into it. And like we said, the Rumble in the early game, maybe a little bit of an issue, but if he doesn't have a counter pick prepared, then they're fine just taking it blind and letting him scale into the late game, because like we said, clearly competent at team fighting late.
Yeah, and we see a Jace being locked in. It could not be a Quas Jace, it could be a Selfie Jace. A Selfie, bit of a known Jace player. He played it when he was subbing in for H2K, I believe like a split or two ago. He had it when he was back on Super Hot Cruise, so this could be a little bit of a different look if they want to put another AP damage champion on the top lane for Quas.
We'll have to see. I'm going to assume that's a top lane Jace coming in for Quas. You already see the Rumble. The Jace can beat that up, and we talk about some of the early game concerns of the Rumble now, not being able to push as well. Maybe that opens it up for Jace to really bully you harder. And on top of the fact that you can flex it mid after seeing the draft, but no matter what, you're going to have to take your mid lane blind here, most likely, assuming CLG Academy doesn't show it early for some reason. So the likelihood of being like, ah, yes, this is a great time to flex, you're probably not going to know that. So that Jace is most likely going top. And then Tempo Storm did not like the Blitzcrank around last time. They're going to take it away here from CLG Academy.
Hey, she's got a really good Thresh. Why can't he have a really good Blitzcrank as well? We'll have to see how he utilizes the Blitzcrank pick for the side of Tempo Storm this game, although he won't have to worry about being hooked in himself on the Zyra. No more God going back to his staple pick of the Olaf. Did fairly well in game #1. Why not run it back in #2?
Yep. I think CLG Academy's, game plan here is pretty obvious. Let's build the same team comp since everything went so well last time. Obviously, the Galio ban this time not coming in, but you can potentially substitute that with another mid laner that has a global ultimate like a Talia or something. Not quite as impactful for diving back lines, but still has that early game roam, which is really what CLG used early on to get a lot of advantages.
We do see now second ban phase. We see a Varus ban. It was hovered very briefly by Tempo Storm and has kind of been one of the champions that Revan's been able to pick up and just plug in and play with this composition. It does give them kind of a bit of a trigger button as well. We'll see the Ashe ban actually comes through as well. Something that usually goes toe-to-toe with the Caitlyn lane, but is another one of the kind of those go buttons. And it is going to be the Jhin, another one of the utility AD carries being banned out. Now that CLG Academy had shown what it could do in game #1, they don't want to play against game #2.
Nope, not at all. So, of course, we have the mid laners unpicked for both people and the supports. So, matched everywhere else, most likely. CLG going to grab their support. Tempo Storm might ban another one out here. The Braum early on. Relatively annoying for a Blitzcrank. You just get in the way and then you ult once you're pulled in. Early on, of course, you can still get killed and ganked pretty easily, and especially against an Elise, that's a little scary, but instead, Tempo Storm going to ban out the Syndra. Yeah,
so Syndra being banned to win. It could wind up being, like you mentioned, Jace could still wind up going into the top lane here. Banning away the Syndra could mean that they don't take Orianna here from CLG Academy side. That could be an Orianna that wind up picking up for themselves. Now we see a Sejuani hover, which if they've been watching some NALCS, could wind up being a support pick into the Blitzcrank, and it looks like it is going to be locked in here. So a Sejuani pickup here for CLG Academy.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a little bit of this out of gate so far. I believe he's the only one we've really seen play it.
Yeah,
I think it had some matches in NACS that were not broadcast, actually, now that I think about it. It's a champion that early on, not a ton going on for it. It does have a stun if you're able to, get to the frost stacks up there, and you can potentially get an all-in with it. But for the most part, it's just a fat tank that you tank into the Blitzcrank, who Blitz is not happy to pull in. You can't burst it down that easily. And then in the late game, hopefully you turn into a better team fighter is the idea with the ultimate coming online.
Well, you also have an Olaf that you can just run down and stun people with too. So we could potentially see Sejuani Olaf combination, a bit of a Freljord synergy. And it is going to wind up being an Orianna picked up here for Tempo Storm. So you were right, I was wrong. Selfie's not going to get his Jace. It's going to be Quas taking that one to the top lane against that Rumble matchup.
You were right about them wanting the Orianna, though. You mentioned it with the Syndra ban. There they go. They grab that. And they also grab the Lucian AD carry. Surprisingly all in lane. They're going to have to try and play this one pretty aggressive because they are still up against the Caitlyn, which is a bit of a lane bully. And without another range support to back it up, it doesn't quite have the crazy harass potential that you're used to seeing. But taking the Lucian into it is basically saying, we're going to try and all in this a lot.
Yeah, we want to try to kill the Caitlyn in order to survive the Caitlyn lane, so to speak. But looks like a Victor is going to be the last pick here for CLG Academy, so adding in a little bit more magic damage into this composition as well as some solid wave clear. A little bit of a different take on the CLG Academy lineup this time. No double globals coming in with, the Galio out from the mid lane. A little less of a protection composition, but now they got a Caitlyn for some more guaranteed late game damage. Tempo Storm on the other side, though, got a little bit of a beefier kind of composition now. They have a Blitzcrank in the bottom lane. It could be a bit of a frontline tank for them. A little bit more crowd control as well, now coming out with the Elise in the jungle.
Yeah, still overall a relatively squishy team comp, though. The Jace not bringing much from the top lane. Elise not that tanky from the jungle. And, I mean, you can build her tanky, but generally not the meta way of doing it. So, once again, you see Tempo Storm with a pretty high damage, low tanky team comp, whereas CLG much more well-rounded, but once again, like you said, not nearly the dive potential available as last time.
Yeah, and also now, Quas has a little bit more split push potential on that Jace pickup and a little bit more early game potential, whereas the Swain normally needed some time to kind of scale up. This time, Quas is on the Jace. They could bully around a little bit early on, so we'll see if anything changes up here. The picks have for game number 2. We'll see how the play styles adapt here as CLG Academy load onto the Rift on the red side against Tempo Storm on the blue side. And CLG Academy already up 1 game on a team that is above them in the standings, and that tied conglomeration of teams for second place. CLG Academy is the one knocking on the door in 5th.
CLG Academy desperately needs a win here. Like we said, they still have to play Big God Jackals, the 4th place team, and Delta Fox, the 6th place team. So some opponents more around their level, but at the very end of the day, if you're not able to grab a win or 2 here, it could be difficult against Big God Jackals, who do have a victory over some of the, I think they beat GCU in week 1 or 2. So, GCU has, Big God Jackals, who is directly above them, have that beat some tougher competition. Yeah,
more importantly, they've beaten CLG Academy, so you need to kind of tie up that series. Otherwise, you have to win an additional match to kind of leapfrog them in the standings. So that's going to be extremely difficult. Whereas Tempo Storm, they're a little bit in the same boat. They're solidly tied for 2nd place right now. Both of their losses are to EU United, so they already played the top team twice. So if they want to have hopes of getting that 1st round bye, they got to keep the rest of the pack below them by taking, sorry, not the 1st round bye. They got to get the rest of the pack below them to get that 2nd seed, so they don't wind up having to potentially face off against EU United in the playoffs.
EU United or GCU even, being pretty scary probably as the 3rd place team compared to the 4th place team. They haven't looked as dominant as they looked last split, but they started last split slowly as well. They're starting to grab more wins, and you might be looking at a GCU that's going to be pretty formidable come playoff time, and you don't want to be bumping into them early on.
And we know what's at stake for both of these teams, and we'll see how game number 2 gets things underway. Last game, it was CLG Academy utilizing a Blitzcrank and utilizing the Olaf to really get the ball rolling for them early on in game number 1, and they were able to get some very good early game Dragon pressure. And Mountain Drake's going to be the first one that's up this time. So it's not as effective as that round 1 Infernal Drake, but we'll see if they continue to keep up that objective-based play around that bottom side of the map.
Right, but a big part was the fact that they had the extra global coming from that mid lane. That initial dive that they turned, both teleports are up in the top lane. Quas joined in thinking it was going to be a 3v4, and in comes the Galio last second, turning that fight into a 5v3. That's a little easier for CLG Academy to win this time around. Not going to be as easy if they try and go for dives. Tuesday's actually going to have to leave the mid lane and run down there on foot as the victor.
The bottom side of the map also has a different look from Tempo Storm now, as we have Revan in on that Lucian pickups you mentioned. They're going to be surviving the bottom lane by trying to kill the Caitlyn, by applying way more pressure than the freeze that Freeze put down. I didn't actually mean that one. He froze the lane.
I'll let you get away with that one. Jungle paths, once again, getting scouted out early by CLG Academy. They've done a good job controlling Wiggly early on. You see that river ward in the top side as Wiggly went for the Scuttle Crab after doing a 3-camp clear. They see him, they know he's up there, and his early gank's probably not going to be super successful. MarkZ this time around going for basically a full clear, skipping out on the Krugs on the top side. But instead of doing that early red side clear and ending relatively healthy, I mean, same thing here, but needs to wait for that blue buff to tick a little bit more to get his mana back up. Just adaptations out of both teams, but once again, CLG Academy getting the early vision down on Wiggly.
Yeah, this also winds up putting MarkZ on the bottom side of the map as his first jungle clear as well. So we'll see if he winds up skirting towards that mid lane to put the pressure down on the Selfie, or if he winds up trying to get something else done around the bottom side of the map. We see danger pings coming out from the side of Tempo Storm as they know that MarkZ is down on that bottom side. Ghost being popped here by both Selfie and MarkZ. Winds up throwing the axe into the brush. However, there's a ward there that spots out Wiggly coming in. Counter gank by just showing up.
Good usage of that ward there out of CLG Academy, not getting baited into running into Selfie. Ghost for ghost trade between MarkZ and Selfie, but both teams are going to back away. A little bit of an awkward footsie dance there on the top side as MarkZ wants to get into his top jungle and Wiggly playing a little bit of keep away.
Yeah, so both of these junglers now on the same side of the map after some early game jungle path scouting had gone slightly in favor of CLG Academy. Wiggly, though, now on a bit more of an early game aggressive jungler in this Elite's pickup. We'll see if he's able to wind up capitalizing on anything. Victor has not taken the cleanse in that mid lane, too, so that means that a cocoon landing from Wiggly could seal the deal to get Selfie those early game advantages that we said he was able to get for the side of Tempo Storm in their previous matches.
CLG Phil went in, got a couple of deep wards down the bot side jungle. You see a question mark ping around the Raptor timing, which gives it away to Fallen Bandit that the Elise is probably up on the top side. You see him playing very far back right now. Really intelligent out of CLG Academy. Good communication overall. The fact that you saw the question mark ping go down. The 4:30 timing on the jungle camps is one that you hear a lot of casters talking about. The fact that it spawns if you start on it, and it's a very high XP and gold camp, so you want to get back to it as soon as you can. And if he's not there right away, you can assume that the jungler is trying to make a play somewhere else.
Well, top side of the map, as you mentioned, was the area that CLG Academy thought we were going to see Wiggly, although he is not over there. And we see trades going down between Quas and Fallen Bandit. Already a bit more of an early game-centric pick here from Quas, getting a solid CS advantage of 40 compared to 26 as Fallen Bandit and Quas continue just to trade some damage back and forth. Fallen Bandit, though, got to be careful. He took a tower shot there from throwing out that Electro Harpoon.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking some damage, and he's lost a lot of CS. Quas with a pretty substantial lead here. There was some jungle pressure up on the top side, but that's a lot of that due to the laning matchup as well, most likely.
Yeah, so things a little bit more calm in this game, specifically from the camp of CLG Academy. Without that double global pressure, they have been a little bit less of roaming on this map, and without the kind of guaranteed CC from Blitzcrank hook and more of a Sejuani on their side this time, they've been content to play this one a little bit slower, although Tempo Storm had the advantages in the early game laning phase, and they continue to have the CS advantages in this game.
Feels like Tempo Storm would be a team that's very happy taking this slowly against CLG Academy. We talked about how they had, laning advantages last time, as well as playing better in the mid and late game. If you can kind of make it less volatile this time around, avoid those big dives, you might be in a great spot to take game 2 here. We see them just dancing out of the range of the Sejuani. Kind of throwing a hook there just to annoy MarkZ, who's probably not someone you actually want to hook right now into a 3v2.
Let's say that might have been a purposefully missed hook here. As that MarkZ with his ghost back up, tries to land one axe on the sheep, is going to wind up missing. Does not land the second undertow either, so ghost burn from MarkZ. Looks like they're just trying to control vision around this bottom side of the map. As a Wiggly, though, I've been making a kind of response gank in this mid lane. Does get the wraparound down on the Tuesday. Cocoon has to get flashed away.
Nice free flash there for Wiggly. Comes in on the side. Tuesday thinking he can juke it, but ends up flashing away. A free summoner there, and a potential repeat gank come a different time when Wiggly really wants to commit hard on it.
No, Wiggly wraps back around into the brush. You see MarkZ pathing up back towards the top side, so Wiggly could be looking for a quick instant repeat here. Command Chakra goes down, clears out the wave, more importantly. Also throws Tuesday, and a flash forward. The cocoon from Wiggly will not land, but the repel afterwards, and he sinks his fangs in for first blood.
Just too much mobility on the side of Tempo Storm there. Wiggly able to flash forward. The gravity field trying to block out the path, but the repel threw it onto him. Ends up going down after it's set up by Selfie with a nice shockwave. Also cleared out a lot of minions to make sure it was easier for Wiggly to get over there as well.
Yeah, so the first blood on the map will be going to Tempo Storm this time around, which gives them a decisive gold lead of about close to 1,000 in this early stage of this game. We see now pressure on the bottom side of the map as Phil's going to get knocked up. He's going to get ignited, and the culling comes out. Will he wind up going down? He has to flash away, but the ignite from Sheep seals the deal. Another kill for Tempo Storm.
And we see the advantage of the all-in from the Lucian there, able to really burn down Zag really quickly. And here, we'll take another look at the gank from the mid lane first. You see the whole backline creep wave cleared out from that ultimate. It's just the cannon creep left in the way. Makes it a little bit easier to execute on this, but it is mostly guaranteed anyways, given the lack of flash for Tuesday. The repeat gank, well timed too, given the fact that they waited for MarkZ to get up into that red buff, out of range to really try and turn that one back around. If he's right on the Raptor camp or something, maybe that's a little dicier, but Tempo Storm able to find another kill, and they actually had a kill in the mid lane early on in last game as well, so showing that there is some good jungle mid synergy between the two of them. Yeah,
so Selfie, we mentioned, second highest jungle proximity in the Challenger Series here between him and Wiggly, and they're going to be converting this into early game advantages, normally ahead by, I believe it was about 12.7 CSD at 15. At this point, he's rocking about the 17 right now. So Selfie with these early game advantages on Orianna this time around. We'll see if he's able to carry it through into, the post lane phase here. As Tempo Storm, though, true to their name, going to keep up the beat here, trying to get a gank down onto Fallen Bennett on the top side of the map, who is having a much, much more difficult time against this Quas chase.
Yeah, a lot more lane dominant than the Swain is known to be. Both are known to be relatively lane dominant, but the all-in threat that comes from a Jace is a little bit higher, and Fallen Bandit falling behind in CS. I mean, it's very scary because we talk about how good his late game team fighting is, but you do need to hit a couple items, get that couple of pen items, the Leandries being a huge one as well. Not close at all right now.
It's like CLG Academy might be trying to make a play down towards this mid lane. We saw pings around the Dragon Pit area, and then with that control ward down in the Pixel Brush there, they were able to kind of just skirt over a ward coming out from the side of Tempo Storm. They are forcing them away from the mid lane here, but it looks like they will not be capitalizing by taking an objective. CLG Academy's early game moves not netting the same advantages here in game number 2.
It was a cute idea. Basically, the Wiggly and Sheep had shown up on the top side on a ward to gank Fallen Bandit, and CLG Academy, instead of trying to rush the dragon down, sits in the bot river hoping that Tempo Storm panics and runs into them to get down to the dragon in time, but doesn't actually work out. No kills go across. They also miss out on the dragon as a result, but they're a little bit more concerned. Uh-oh, once again.
Wiggly finds Tuesday trying to ward that brush when there wasn't one, and another kill picked up here for this Elise.
Teleport was coming in for Fallen Bandit. Does get canceled. Oh, he shows up.
Hey,
now they're going to go for it.
Equalizer here trying to cut Selfie off from the rest of the team. MarkZ's going to charge in, but the teleport response coming in from Quas. He's directly under the tower. Gets the gate down, Shock Blast will land, forcing CLG Academy away, and Tempo Storm at 5 strong now in this mid lane. Brute force down, first tower.
And the gold lead is pretty substantial now, up above 3,000 just 10 minutes into the game. And they're not done yet, gonna turn down on that Mountain Dragon, able to pick this one up. And as I was just about to say, one of the reasons CLG Academy was more concerned about hoping to get pickoffs than Mountain Dragon is because if you're not actually ahead, Mountain Dragon's basically useless. You'll never find an opportunity to hit turrets or Baron with it. So they were concerned about getting even in the game rather than getting a Dragon that's only beneficial for the head. That said, that means it's available for Tempo Storm to grab. Yep. Now they can use it to expand their lead further.
So a Mountain Dragon, the first one of the series here, picked up for Tempo Storm. So now they're about a 3,000 gold advantage in their favor, which is about the same amount as CLG Academy's largest gold lead in the game number 1 that they actually wound up coming out ahead in.
Yeah, it's one of the advantages to being able to make plays as well as generate CS leads. Tuesday knows he feels a little exposed, wants to get a ward over there, but it's a little too late as Wiggly is already there. Flash not available yet. Easy kill, and then CLG Academy started getting a little desperate. Teleport in with Quas able to match, but even then, it's still a 4v4 as both teams had already grouped up around the mid lane.
CLG Academy find themselves behind extremely far in this early stages of game number 2. Tempo Storm, however, definitely turned up the heat a little bit, and a lot of it has been centered around this mid lane matchup. We talked about how Selfie was one of the guys who has more aggressive play style. They've changed out Sentinel for Wiggly, and he seems to be synergizing extremely well, not just with Selfie, but being a little bit more of a presence on the map. He's the one that has the 2 kills in this game. Granted, they were both gotten for him in the mid lane, but this Elise pickup is something we would not have seen Sentinel playing. He usually played the Vi or something a little bit tankier, but now being a little bit more proactive on the map. And they've also subbed in Revan on this bottom lane, who we saw playing up and in the face with this Lucian pickup, and while he's down in CS, that's to be expected from the Caitlyn lane, but he's got himself an assist, and he's got himself bot lane pressure.
Overall, Revan, it's hard to know on the outside, what the differences are exactly between the two, but, the Lucian pick very aggressive, and with the Blitzcrank going for that more all-in style, they got a solo kill down the bot lane, as well as the fact that the Caitlyn, like we said, without the additional range support to help harass, it's not quite as effective as of a pick. And as a result, Tempo Storm won the bot lane relatively hard, though the CS is, close here. The big thing is that the Caitlyn was not constantly shoving in.
Yeah, now Tempo Storm going to transition all of this pressure they had from their own mid lane pushing to be forcing down on this bot lane tower. Looks like though the Glacial Prison is going to wind up landing on the Sheep. He gets rooted up, and a follow-up there from MarkZ. Selfie's going to get exhausted out as they're just anticipating the threat of that command shockwave, but CLG Academy, they're the ones that have very low health bars on a couple of members here, as Sheep was the only one that took damage from Tempo Storm.
A little surprised to not see Selfie pull the trigger there. I don't know if he was looking for a bigger ultimate or maybe didn't quite have enough mana at the time. But either way, they're happy to just continue sieging down that turret while they buy time for Quas to all in on the top side.
The flash and the knockback, the J-Sec coming out here. It's Fallen Bandit, true to his name, will go down.
And Quas with the summoner advantage, go for the fancy play, knocking him back closer to himself. Able to get the kill there while his bot lane 4v4 was able to siege that turret. Now Selfie caught a little out of position, no mana.
Ooh, Phil going to flash out to get the chase down, tries to get the stun, and will wind up landing that as Selfie has to pop the ghost with very low mana. MarkZ was ghosting after to try to follow up on this one. Can use it to dodge on the hook, some fancy footwork, but CLG Academy unable to capitalize and get anything back.
So far, they're getting perfect game, Tom.
Ooh.
No kills, no turrets. They could have got that Mountain Dragon, but they went for the bigger play instead. They don't find it, and now you gotta wonder how they're gonna find their first opening, because their two big late game team fighting threats are very, very, very far behind. Not even 100 CS on Fallen Bandit yet. Tuesday just broke that mark for himself, but he's behind in Orianna, up 30 CS with 2 assists and global gold from turrets. Not looking good.
And the one thing they have on the side of CLG Academy is Zag, but even he is not as advantageous as the Caitlyn could potentially be in this matchup. So CLG Academy for sure on the back foot, but we sung the praises of CLG Academy's early game in game number 1 because it looked so impressive and they were making so many plays around the map. But Tempo Storm here, playing it not necessarily as aggressive with the Blitzcrank pickup, but playing it very, very cleanly in the early stages of the game to get their own advantage.
You get to see the differences between the two playstyles, really, where, Sheep was in lane, roamed up the top side a little bit, didn't really find a crazy play, but just with the Lucian pick, able to all in a little bit harder in the bot lane. And compared to last game where CLG Academy had a lot more go buttons, the Blitzcrank itself, you could say, a little bit easier to find an opening than the Sejuani maybe, because you can throw that Q out on a low cooldown, and if it hits, great. You can't really have the same philosophy about the Sejuani ultimate, which is her main engage tool. A lot bigger of a cooldown if you miss, as now Tempo Storm forcing around the Rift Herald.
Yeah, they got this one down below half HP. The teleport's coming in from Fallen Bandit. He's still a little bit far behind, and Phil's going to wind up landing the Glacial Prison himself. Goes down on a Quas. That's a beefy member of Tempo Storm that will wind up going down. MarkZ going to chase past the Rift Herald. It will wind up going to the side of Tempo Storm, who are able actually to pick it up and have Wheatley flash away from that one. Now Sheep kind of caught out as Revan's on the backside as well. Looks like CLG Academy is going to try to flash forward on the Selfie. Second Harpoon winds up landing. They're trying to get the damage down, but there's a second fight on the backside. Zag was very low HP, trying to rejoin this one. Tempo Storm cleans up on the front side. Tempo Storm cleans up on the backside. All of a sudden, CLG Academy have evaporated.
They get a 4th for 0 after what seemed like a horrible fight with Quas going down early, and they were able to pick up the Rift Herald in the end of that fight, and now Tempo Storm, after it looked like it was getting a little dicey, they might be throwing their lead. It's instead up to a 7,000 gold lead almost, and they're going to be using the Rift Herald to push down this top lane.
Yeah, this top tower already extremely low. Rift Herald's going to be charging through to get the last couple of hits on that one, and this lead has completely gone in favor of Tempo Storm, completely snowballed out of control.
But the perfect game is ruined. They grabbed 1 kill onto Quas there. Minor victories here for CLG Academy, because it feels like they're going to have a tough time coming back into this one.
There was a debate, and we have had our own debates as to what you call a perfect game or no-hitter, or the NALCS had their own kind of debate, but as we see a replay of this Rift Herald going in the way of Tempo Storm, CLG Academy, they were the ones that controlled almost all the objectives in the first game, but this time around, they're the ones that are losing out on these objectives to Tempo Storm.
There was some good vision control on the side of CLG Academy, and then Quas kind of just gets CC'd up here. They know he has no flash, so they just land the Sejuani ult onto him and drop a lot of damage to win it. And then Wiggly gets caught out in a weird spot here, but the fight breaks out in 2 different directions. CLG splits on if they want to chase up or chase down. And with the split, they actually end up losing on both fronts.
Oh, well, Quas now might be caught out again here. So MarkZ and Tuesday trying to jump down onto him. Quas gets a decent amount of damage down on Tuesday, trying to turn this around in the 1v2. Quas will get a trade kill as he goes down, but takes Tuesday with him.
The last possible tick of damage that Quas could have thrown out is the last bit he needs to get the trade kill. Might want to start investing in some MR because it feels like he's going up against a lot of that, but he's got 2 kills and he's bought his team enough time to keep pushing down this mid lane.
Yeah, they traded tower for tower. It was a tier 2 in the mid lane, which opens up the inhibitor tower, and all of a sudden 18 minutes in, this is like the reverse of game number 1. Tempo Storm are the ones knocking down an inhibitor in the mid lane here against CLG Academy.
Oh, they hook him.
Phil winds up getting hooked in, tries to charge out onto Selfie. Command Shockwave turns it around, and Tempo Storm, they wind up losing their mid laner. Repel comes out here from the side of Wiggly, but a teleport comes in from Quas. There's low HP bars from CLG Academy, and Revan goes on a killing spree. They're able to take down that mid lane inhibitor and Tempo Storm. Looks like they might... No, they're not going to be pushing this one down. They want to back away.
Yeah, it'd be a little crazy to push for more, just 18.5 minutes in. The teleport from Quas might seem ineffective, but it stops CLG from potentially chasing down more members, as well as allowing them to get the inhibitor. So a little bit of a defensive teleport there out of Quas. His hand was forced a little bit by the fact that Selfie had gotten caught out. And overall, you're not too sad, though, if you're on the side of Tempo Storm, because, hey, you just got a mid inhibitor 18.5 minutes into the game.
So we see now CLG Academy having a taste of their own medicine from game number 1. Tuesday, his mid lane matchup not going very, very well for him this time around. 0, 4, and 2 on the victors. We saw him falling down in a 1v2 situation against Quas. And CLG Academy, the strengths they had in game number 1, the kind of synergy between their front line with the Galio pickup in the mid lane, and the fact that Rumble was able to just provide massive amounts of damage in game number 1, just not the same effect here. Fallen Bandit still is yet to crest the 100 CS mark. Might actually get Flame Horizon by Quas if he doesn't hit that soon.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a lot of trouble. Quas, there's a big minion wave heading to Fallen Bandit right now, but the rest of Tempo Storm is rotating up there. If he shows, he might get hooked by Sheep here.
Yep.
He wants this minion wave, probably going to end up ulting it. It's going to be up in a couple seconds for him, so he should be able to clear this out for the most part. We'll see how much he's actually able to get.
This tower's pretty healthy, so it doesn't look like Tempo Storm will be able to force that one down, but it's just another distraction for them to take away yet another objective on the map from CLG Academy as they want to getting the Ocean Drake for themselves. Fallen Bandit was able to hold on to the equalizer for himself. Does crest the 100 CS mark, so small milestones for him, but Tempo Storm now with the most members on the bottom side from that Ocean Drake, going to be contented to siege down on this bottom lane tower. The hook winds up landing, and they wind up taking down Zag, and that's a crucial target here. CLG Academy trying to collapse. They will wind up taking down Selfie. Oh my God, gets a double kill, actually, as he's forced away. Phil has to run away, as well as now Fallen Bandit takes a large chunk of damage. Even though Tempo Storm loses 2, they force CLG back.
They get a 2-for-1 on the side of CLG Academy. Turrets low, they're forced away. Might still go in favor of Tempo Storm because they have to go back and deal with the mid lane super creeps. And overall, a nice stand there out of CLG Academy, but not one decisively enough to really get much off of it. A couple cleanup kills is nice and all, but they need a lot more to get back into this 9,000 gold deficit.
So if they weren't about 9,000 gold behind, that could have gotten the turning point for them. But now it's just kind of a stabilizing point. As you mentioned, they have to defend against the super minions, and Tempo Storm, off of a messy fight where they come out down in kills, are still able to secure the kill on this tower.
And you see the strength of this composition potentially from an even game, even though Zag gets hooked in and instantly deleted. They're under the turret. They get wombo comboed a little bit with the Sejuani ultimate into the Rumble ult. The early Zhonya's is a surprising pickup, given that usually you want your Leandris to at least be relevant in damage, but he's able to dodge out on the Orianna Shockwave as a result, and the rest of CLG Academy able to get out there after Zag got popped instantly.
Now I see Tempo Storm maybe trying to show CLG Academy how to utilize this lead and how to play around the Baron. They're melting this one down. There's no response from CLG Academy whatsoever.
You get to see a little bit of the power of that Mountain Drake, as well as the fact that Tempo Storm's team comp does Baron, significantly faster. Olaf, Caitlyn, Galio was the other team's 3-man core. This time around, Elise, Ori, Lucian. A little bit faster on that side if they're trying to burn it down, as well as the fact I believe Quas was involved in that as well. So double play the Rune King users taking down a Baron pretty quick.
Elise with the Leandris Torment on top of that one as a shock blast to the face forces Zag to back away here. Tempo Storm turning up the heat in game number 2, continuing to force down this pressure. They have about 3 minutes still on a Baron buff, a 10,500 gold lead in CLG Academy. They're down. They're not out quite yet. They're looking to maybe try to set up another wraparound play from this bottom lane brush as Phil winds up running in. You wind up getting the Glacial Prison down onto Quas. The Equalizer zones away people, but they're only able to pick up a kill on the Sheep to start this out. Fallen Bandit goes golden, has to flash away. Wiggly's being forced back as Omar God is charging in, but the front line is down. Phil's going to be picked up on the backside as Revan dashes in and double shots, a double kill for himself. Tempo Storm, 4 members still alive, forcing it to the base of CLG.
Waiting for the next creep wave to come. Quas teleporting.
Oh, he wants to try to take it down with the minions. He keeps that super minion alive to tank it through, and that actually works. At the same time, it forces CLG Academy back to defend that. They lose the top lane inhibitor.
Tempo Storm not wanting to wait at all. They want to go right now. The first Nexus turret's already down. They're working away on the second one. They have 4 ranged characters here, so they're able to siege it up relatively effectively 2v4. And with that, looks like they're going to actually be able to end the game already 23 minutes in.
And Quas is going to go on a killing spree at the end of that one, and Tempo Storm, they get the advantages CLG Academy had in game number 1, and they say this is how you close a game out. They speed run through CLA.
That's exactly what we were saying would be the thing to watch out for. Last time, CLG Academy, massive lead, but for the most part, Tempo Storm was outperforming them in the middle late game. This time with the lead, yeah, they show them how to end a game.
Yeah, they had lane advantages. They had kill advantages in the early game. They had objective advantages. We were talking about the fact that, hey, you know, they lost out on the perfect game because they wound up losing some kills, but they still had all the objectives, so there were no errors on their side whatsoever. They had complete control of the game is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would still say, you know, a couple small mistakes out of them, getting a little too over aggressive. Their comp, like we said, is very squishy, so if they ever went a little too far forward, you got to see what the idea CLG Academy was going for with the Sejuani being able to lock people in place and then falling you know, victim to the damage that comes in from a Rumble Victor. Very strong team fighting champions, but when you're 9,000 gold down, that's not quite enough to make up for the deficit you've created for yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, the side of Tempo Storm was able to build up that much of a gold lead through some very strong early game advantages, not only in lane phase, but a lot of the early game kills that they were able to secure in this game, but they just really didn't have in game number 1.
Yeah, and I think when you go look at seeing how they turn these kills as well, it was a lot of, you know, that jungle mid synergy that we talked about being so important. Selfie had already built himself a little bit of a lead. He has the pressure. They just took Tuesday's flash right before this, so they repeat gank it. Now that that's open, the jungler's stuck mid, farming under the turret. This is the go button for Sheep and Revan to start a fight out. They all in down the bot side here onto Phil, who is once again a little under-leveled. He drops quickly, and then off the back of that, the mid lane continues to be open. The flash still down onto Tuesday. No vision up on the top side because Quas have been dominating up there as well. Wiggly able to get onto Tuesday. Another free kill. This baits a fight out of CLG Academy, they teleport in, and it goes south from there as well, and that's the first turret in the mid lane, I think, that they grab. So off the back of all these little skirmishes, it was always Tempo Storm coming out ahead.
And that last one we saw from Tuesday kind of going up the ward, he knew that that gank was coming. It just feels really bad knowing that his team was just kind of one step behind throughout the entirety of the early game, which transitioned into the later stages game where just were not able to find their footing in this one.
It's a tough situation because it felt like they kind of over-prioritized team comp, which sometimes you're like, how is that possible? But you take the Rumble early, you get counter-picked up there by the Jace pick, so you're at a pretty big deficit there. You take the Victor into Orianna as your counter pick, which is mostly an even matchup. Still Ori favored a little bit early on. Maybe, you know, once Victor hits his Hex Core upgrade, he's able to wave clear just fine. But before that point, definitely in Ori's favor, and they punished him during that timing window. And then on the bot side, it was relatively even, but you saw the all-in potential that came in. So not much working on the side of team, you know, CLG Academy early on in the game.
Yeah, instead it was Tempo Storm that just continued to kind of push the gas pedal forward, and they executed cleaner than the way that CLG Academy were able to, including, you know, multiple fights in the mid to late, or at least late game, about 22 minutes or something into the game at that point. But they continued to put the pressure on in these team fights, even taking advantages 4 for O's, 3 for O's, and including a top lane fight where basically they killed everybody except for one on the side of CLG Academy.
And it's off that Rift Herald that it seemed like it was going to go so bad. Quas and Selfie, as well as Wiggly, working on this as a 3-man core. Teleport comes in on the side of CLG Academy, and they get this kind of wombo combo that we kept mentioning onto Quas, Sejuani ult into the Rumble Equalizer. He burns down extremely quickly, and he's going to get dropped right away. And from here, you think, okay, CLG Academy should be in a good spot. They almost kill Wiggly as well. Orianna Shockwave is nice, but they actually don't win it, and now they're chasing down onto Sheep. But this is where they split. They want to take 2 different 2v2s, and Revan's really strong at this point in the game. They're able to get that solo out down there, and as well as the fact that Selfie just with those shields and the CC coming in from Wiggly, who they kind of forgot about, they're able to lock down those men. And out of nowhere, you get a 4-for-0, what seemed like initially was going to be a potential turning point for CLG to get back into the game.
Yeah, and we saw Revan on the top side utilizing that colony to just chunk Zag out. And we said maybe 10 or so minutes in the game that Zag was going to be the way that CLG Academy tried to climb back into this one. They chunked that member away from the fight whatsoever. And when he rejoins, he has no HP and just winds up being a free kill for that top side.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying about, Zag last time around. Didn't have to do much, just play the Jhin, hold on in the laning phase, and then open people up in the late game. This time on the Caitlyn, was not able to get any laning advantages. Even last time around, Tempo Storm with the Caitlyn at least was pushing the turret down, even if things were not going great for them. This time around, nothing working anywhere all over the map.
Yeah, so Tempo Storm have tied up this